Test, 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 test.
Dr. Bruce, telephone, please. Dr. Bruce, telephone, please.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another dungeon. Last video we asked people what they wanted for the next How to Play vid, and the winner was Pandemic, which you probably already figured out because the box is sitting on the table beside me. Yep, that's all that's beside me. It's a game for 2 to 4 players. The box says ages 8 and above, but we find the kids get a bit bored of it unless, maybe they're just on the verge. My daughter's 8, so it's a fun game where you have to cure the world of all viruses. What we'll do, standard setup, I'll have a video. This video will actually run through laying out the board and how to play. They work well together and it's nice and short. And then I'll be joined by Kirsty and we'll do a complete run through of the game to show you how it goes. Hopefully we can win. We don't have a lot of luck with this game. Anyway, I'll see you in a sec. Okay, this is the board for Pandemic. Now before you start a game and set up all your decks and stuff, there's a few little things you need to set up. The very first thing is to take these cure icons. They look like little vials and they've got a cross on one side and a cross? What's that symbol called? I don't know. Whatever that's called on one side and that on the other. You want to place them like this below each corresponding colour here. Like so. Then you want to take your infection marker, which is this circular one, and place it at the far left spot on this infection track here. The last marker you're going to want to place is this outbreak marker. That goes over here at the 0 position, not down here at the skull and crossbones, which, as you probably figured out, are not a good thing. Last thing you want to do is place your base, your home sweet home, your research centre. This always goes in Atlanta. That doesn't change on any of the games. You do have the ability to build more research centres, but the first one you always place in Atlanta. That's where your players start the game. The next thing you want to do is grab these virus cubes. They come in 4 colours and you want to place them in a pile close to the board. Close to the board but not in the way. It's not a timed game, so you don't have to worry about being able to quickly grab them or anything like that. You just need them to be easily accessible but not where you're going to sit. Then it's time to set up your decks. The first deck you're going to want to set up is this infection deck. It's got the cities on one side and this green icon on the back. So you shuffle that one. I have shuffled them before. This isn't my idea of a shuffle. And you place it on the infection deck draw space there. When you draw a card, they get discarded over there. Now we're nearly finished setting up. The next thing is you want to take these 7 roll cards, shuffle them, and draw the top 2 for each player. These cards have special actions, varying depending on who you are, obviously. Some work very well, some we didn't find to be too useful. Either way, you take them and you deal 1 to each player. So Kirsty and I are going to play a 2-player game. So Kirsty will be the medic, and I will be the operations expert. So, being the operations expert, my token is light green, so I go to Atlanta. Kirsty is orange, the medic, so she goes to Atlanta. And that's us ready to start the game. I'll play on this side of the table, Kirsty can play on that side. Next, what you're going to want to do is take these epidemic cards and put them to the side. Now they have a backing very similar to the player draw deck, so you have to separate them out first and put them away. In a regular game you play with 4 epidemic cards. Sorry, in a regular game you play with 6 epidemic cards. If you want an easier game where you're just starting out, play it with 4. It makes things a little bit easier. So what you do at the moment is you just take them and put them to the side. Now you take the player deck, which consists of all these cards with a blue medic symbol on the back. They also have city names and locations on the other side, and you shuffle all of those up and deal 4 to each player. For the game that we're playing, we'll play these cards face up. Normally you play with a concealed hand. Then what you do is you organise these cards into roughly 6 paths. Then you take the epidemic cards from before and place one upside down on each of these piles. Put them back together again. Shuffle them. Don't stuff this up, Dave. Hey, I only learned how to do that the other day. Look at that. Look at that. So shuffle those and then place them down here on the player deck. And that is it. You're now ready to play Pandemic. So I'll go into the next stage, which is how to play. Sorry, there was one step that I forgot in board setup. So what you have to do here is you have to start infecting the world. So this is where all the viruses start out, or the diseases, as indicated by the cubes. So the first step in doing this for the setup phase is you draw the top 3 cards. So for the first 3, they get 3 cubes each. So first we've got Sao Paulo. So we put 3 cubes there. Then we've got Kinshasa, which is here. If you're ever stuck, they actually have a little target on the thing to show you where in the world it is. And then we have 3 for Beijing up here. So that's it, and those 3 cards go on the discard pile. Then you draw the next 3 cards. So we've got Moscow, Bangkok and Chicago. So Moscow gets... where is it? Hang on, I'm in the wrong area. Moscow gets 2. Bangkok gets 2. There's Bangkok, I should know that. And Chicago gets 2 up near home. Then we draw the final 3 cards. 1, 2, 3. And we've got 1 for Paris, 1 for New York, and 1 for Santiago. And now our initial infection rate is done and we're ready to start playing. We're really ready this time, not like before when I stuffed it up and said we're ready but I'd forgotten this step. So let's get down to the next step. In Pandemic, there are 3 ways to lose the game, but only 1 way to succeed. The way you win is by curing diseases. When you cure a disease, say you cure the yellow disease, you move the marker up onto that top icon. When all 4 markers are up on the top 4 icons, you've won the game. Congratulations. The first way to lose in Pandemic is for this Outbreak Marker to reach all the way to the bottom where there's a skull and crossbones. It's a little bit of a giveaway. I'll run through outbreaks in a moment when I'm running through what happens on a person's turn and explain exactly how you get an outbreak. As you play the game, you'll be drawing and discarding cards over here, like so. When this deck reaches all the way to the bottom, you don't reshuffle them and re-put them back there. That's game over. That's the second way you can lose the game. The third way to lose the game is when any of these disease cubes are all placed on the board. So you're going to want to get rid of these before they're all out in various cities or you've lost the game. Okay, so here we have Kirsty's hand. Here's her medic card, which shows her role and her special skills, which we'll run into later, and the 4 cards she's drawn. Players' turns can be broken down into 3 parts. The first part is to do 4 actions, second part is to draw cards, and the third part is to infect. For the first part, you're given this little cheat card, I guess you'd call it, that lists all the actions you can perform. But we'll run through them now. The first action on your sheet is Drive or Ferry, which allows you to move to a city connected by a white line. So to do this, you merely take your piece and move it to any city connected to the one you're in. For Atlanta, we could move to Miami, or we could move to Washington, or we could move to Chicago. The second option we have is a direct flight. Discard a city card to move to the city named on that card. So, I have the Istanbul card. So what I could do is discard that card into the player discard pile, which I really should have had on the camera, and then I can just basically move straight to Istanbul, like that. The next movement option is a chartered flight. Discard the city card that matches the city you're in to move to any city. So, I'll take my Istanbul card back for a second. Say I was in Istanbul, I can discard that card and go to any place in the world. So let's go to Lima. The last mode of transport is shuttle flight. Move from any city with a research station to any other city that has a research station. So, if we had a research station here, I could for one move relocate myself to there. The next action you can do on your turn is to build a research centre. That basically involves just getting one of these research centre icons. Say I was in Madrid, I get one of these and I place it there. The reason you do that is to facilitate easy travel for your friends. It's a cooperative game, so you're meant to be working together to try and beat the diseases before they beat you. The next task you can perform is that you can treat disease. This allows you to remove one disease token from any city that you happen to be in. If you happen to have cured that disease, you can remove all cubes from the city you're in. If you've removed all of that colour cube from the board and you've cured the disease, that disease is eradicated and these cubes can no longer appear in the game, meaning that you don't have to worry about the yellow cubes running out as a way to lose the game. We're going to skip a step here and go right to the end. Discover a cure. If you have 5 of the same colour card in your hand, you have the ability to cure that disease. So at the moment we can cure the black disease. The way you cure a disease is you need to be in any location that has a research centre and you merely give these 5 cards over and that disease is cured. If you had 4 of a colour, but you knew one of your teammates, say, had the last colour you needed to find a cure, you can do the final action, which is called Share Knowledge. To do this, you both need to be in the same city. So I'll just tilt this up a little fraction, like so. So this is the Istanbul card. So, if we were both in Istanbul, either one of us can use the Share Knowledge card. Kirsty, who is orange, can use Share Knowledge to request that I give her Istanbul. Or me, as green, on my turn, can use Share Knowledge to give her the Istanbul card. The important thing to note is that you both have to be in the same city and the city whose name is on the card in order for that to work. There is a role, I believe, called Scientist that will allow you to trade from any city. But I'll run through roles later on. So on your turn, your first step is to perform any 4 actions from this action card. You can do the same action once or twice or 3 times if you want. So you could go 1, 2, 3, 4, or I could have gone, say we had that over there, I could have gone 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, etc, etc. Whatever you want. You can do any combination as long as you don't exceed 4 moves. Once you've finished taking your 4 actions, you're at the draw stage. You draw 2 cards from the draw deck and add them to your hand. Now your hand is never allowed to exceed 7 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we've gone over, so I have to discard one of my cards there. It's tricky because you need 5 to cure a disease, so having a 7 card limit means you've got to manage your resources well, talk to your teammates, find out who's carrying what, and work towards finding a cure. Also, don't forget, as the game progresses, this deck is going to be getting smaller and smaller. When it's out, it's game over, so you don't want to use up too many cards by simply throwing them away. Occasionally, when drawing cards from the deck, you'll get things called event cards. They look like this and can be placed in your hand or used instantly anytime. They don't cost an action point and do a variety of things as written on the card. For example, this one lets you move anyone to any city, but advises you get permission before airlifting someone out. That's just common courtesy, I guess. This one lets you skip the next infect city step. So that could be handy if you're worried about getting high infection or outbreaks. Occasionally when drawing a card from the deck, oh, isn't that lucky? You'd think I would have put it there on purpose. You'll draw an epidemic card. When you draw these, they must be actioned immediately and not thrown away. You put them in the box, get them out of the game when you're complete. There are only 4 or 6 depending on what you started with in a game, so the idea is that you don't keep drawing them, you don't shuffle them back in, etc, etc. So the first step on this card is to increase. What that means is you take this infection rate marker and you move it up 1 notch. The second action you perform is to infect the city. So to do that, you take the infection deck, take the card off the bottom, which in our case is Mexico City, and Mexico City gets 3 cubes. And that goes on the discard pile. The next step you do is intensify. What this involves is take all the discard piles on the infection deck, shuffle them together, and then place them on top of the infection deck. The reason that you do that is because now when you go to the next stage, which is infection, you will be infecting already infected cities, therefore making the chance of outbreak and high infection much higher. The final step in your turn is to infect cities. It's a very easy task. You have a look at where your infection rate marker is. Currently it's at 2. Draw that many cards. We have Kinshasa and New York, and you place, where are we? Blink, and New York. You place a token on those cities and then put that in the discard pile. And that's the end of your turn. If when drawing an infection card, you reach a city, say Sao Paulo, which already has 3 tokens, you do what's called Outbreak. On Outbreak, you move the marker up 1 level and you place a token. Instead of placing it on there, you place it on every adjoining city. If, for example, you already had 3 on that city, then when this one spread, the outbreak would continue. So you'd move it up another notch and every city that one is connected to as well. If you had another 3 there, it would go on and on and on. I can't count the number of games where we've been going okay and then a series of outbreaks has occurred and cost us the game. And that's pretty much all there is to playing the game. It'll make a lot more sense when we're actually playing through a game, so stick around and we'll actually do a gameplay video. The only other thing I wanted to touch on quickly was the various roles. Okay, so roles are the things that we assigned at the start of the game. If you remember, I was the operations expert and Kirsty's going to be the medic for this game. So for the operations expert, as an action, I can build a research station. In the city I'm in, no city card needed. So that means that wherever I am, I can build a research station, which is a very good skill to have. The second one is once per turn as an action, I can move from a research station to any city by discarding any city card. So it's the same as a chartered flight, except I can discard any of the cities in my hand. It's my choice, and I can go around. A good trick with this role is that you should be going around creating many research centres so that your other guys can get around and work on curing the diseases. Kirsty was the medic. So, her first thing is remove all cubes of one colour when doing a treat disease. So if she was here and she did treat disease, remember you normally take 1, she can take all 3. Her next one is that she can automatically remove cubes of cured diseases from the city you are in and prevent them from being placed there. So, if she was on her turn, say she's here, we've cured yellow, we haven't eradicated it, we've cured yellow. So she goes 1, that's gone, 2, that's gone, 3, that's gone, and then say 4. Furthermore, if we drew the Sao Paulo card and you are meant to place a coloured cube on the city she's in, you don't do that. The medic can automatically protect the city that he or she, or he according to the picture, is in. There are 5 other roles in the game, each of which varies in its effectiveness. The Dispatcher allows you to move another player's pawn as if it were your own, and also, as an action, you can move a pawn to any city with another pawn. As with Airlift, it advises you ask their permission first. The Researcher allows you as an action to perform the Share Knowledge skill, but you just both need to be in the same city. You don't have to have the card with the name of that city in your hand, so that's another useful one. The Scientist means you only need 4 of any particular colour of card in order to cure that colour. So if you had 4 red cards, that player would now be able to cure the red disease. The Contingency Planner I didn't find particularly useful. They have the ability to take any discarded event card and place it on top of this card. That costs them an action, but then they can use that action whenever they want. There are a couple of good event cards like relocating or getting a free research station and stuff like that. So I suppose it has a usefulness, but it's sort of a one-shot sort of thing. The last one is a very useful one. It's Quarantine Specialist. Now this person basically prevents disease from appearing wherever they happen to be. So if disease was meant to appear here, it wouldn't. If we got a disease here that was going to outbreak and go down there, that wouldn't appear there either. They basically put a halt to disease spread. Each of the roles by themselves are okay, but if you have the right mix in a team of 4, it can greatly affect the ease at which you complete the game. That said, that's pretty much everything for setting up and playing the game. It might be a little bit confusing, so next episode, Kirsty and I will play through an entire game of Pandemic and hopefully save the world. Hopefully. Please.